Hi there, my name is Jennifer Foster. I'm the owner of the Energy Dynamic Model Academy, the place to come to find out how human beings actually work. And it is the only place in the world that you will find out how to study the nature of human energy. I'm reading from a book I've written at the moment, and we're on page 27. And this is a continuation of the evidence that I found as I was doing my work and living my life, that enabled me to put together the patterns that we're discussing in these videos. So I hope you enjoy and take a seat. And today we'll continue page 27, 2008. As I had mainly worked with people in difficult situations so far, I had really only observed how people felt once their situations had improved. My challenge had been to work out how this change could be facilitated. I had realised that this was fundamentally to do with where, how and what energy and information you had been exposed to. And because of this, I was tentatively calling the framework I was working on the energy dynamic model. However, I still had not really examined the mind yet. Some of my clients and previous service users had mentioned the role of their mind, and I had noted this. But the mind hadn't really seemed to be affecting people's decisions significantly up to this point. The data had pointed to the fact that if you wanted to improve your life, it seemed to be much more important to know about yourself and to be in an environment that would nurture you, to have knowledge about your actual being and an awareness of your reality, rather than just being focused on the mindset and positive thinking. Sometimes people had mentioned voices in the head, and sometimes had said that they even had other people living in their minds, especially if they were in distress. But again, it had not been significant so far in my findings in regards to people's progress. But I was fascinated by this element of self and wanted to find out more. So I carried on working with people one-to-one and started to confirm the patterns that I had already noted, the power needs, the who you are, and the relationship these have with your environment and the people within it. Spiritual faith started to be mentioned by clients. I saw how this fitted in and where it slotted into the whole framework. Two ladies showed me the way forward with this. Anna E. was a very skilled business lady. She was an acupuncturist and nutritional healer and was very knowledgeable about Taoism. She taught me a lot, and I saw how the spiritual experience was another way that people gathered up information and energy. Karen F. was a Reiki healer and trainer, and her information and wisdom also helped me to fit this aspect of our life experience into the model that had started to take shape. It was around about this time as well that life coaching had come into vogue, so I decided to take a course in this to see if what I was doing was in fact the same. I was horrified to see that the life coaching course was all about mindset, values and beliefs. I had found so far not one person who had the slightest interest or issue about any of these topics. In fact, the life coaching methodology seemed to be in direct opposition to what I could see worked for my clients. So I left this course in a hurry and continued to pursue my findings. But I was still intrigued to find out more about the mind and how it fitted into the energy dynamic model, EDM for short. So I decided to ask my clients what was going on in their minds. From remembering what the mentally ill people had told me about what was going on in their minds during the Care in the Community episode, I devised a simple imagination exercise. I asked my clients to imagine that their mind was like a head office, to shut their eyes and tell me what was in the room. Once they had described the room, I would then ask them if there was anyone in there, and often there was. This was so fascinating that I began to ask my clients more questions and to also include drawing their mind as part of the who I am process. I described what the mind function was and included more imaginary aspects into it regarding feelings, data processing, and such like to my script. Sat back and was amazed at what clients started to tell me. To my absolute surprise, I noticed that different people were drawing the same things in their mind, which seemed to have the same general significance. And also that the mind office actually changed once the client started to make progress. I discovered two very important principles here. The mindset changes because the person improves their life experience, not the other way round. There are principles that are the same for everyone that govern the mind in the same way as everyone has the same power needs and everyone has the same elements of who they are. So, I continued to work hard on this and collected up more data. This is a successful entrepreneur who drew his internal mind office and people in it for me. Another extremely significant finding was revealed. As the client started to engage with their mind office and communicate with the person, or people in this case, who were living up there, the more effective the person started to become. This was especially true for business people. They reported as feeling more at one with themselves, having more clarity and being able to make decisions more easily. They were no longer fighting and trying to control their thoughts and emotions, which in turn reduced their stress levels and increased their well-being. I started to realise that one reason why these people could draw their minds in such detail was because they were actually living up there themselves, hence were stuck, but didn't realise it, in their own mind construct perception. This reminded me of the client years ago when I put my head in the kitchen cupboard to illustrate to her how if you are in a situation whereby you are literally in a box, then you will experience being in a box. So the obvious solution to improving your situation is to leave the box and become free. I saw that being stuck in the mind for a business person had the same effect as being stuck in a real box. So I surmised that by drawing their minds and defining the space, the person could then allow themselves to leave it, so to speak. The person then became quite liberated from their usual assumptions, habits and perceptions that they were subjected to, and instead started to become more innovative, creative and intuitive. Everything improved, including their cash flow. I found out that it helped my business people clients to understand the concept of who they were and the power needs if I literally hit them with boxing gloves and pads. We would swap around and then they would have to hit me. This became part of the training program as it allowed them to live more in the moment and to leave their mind office. I became very popular as a business coach and found lots of clients. They all started to feel much better and their minds stopped controlling them so much. They relaxed and started to make more money. I also had interesting results from people who had mental health issues. Here is an example of a before we started to work together and an after progress had been made in understanding of self and improving the environment. Mind drawn by another client who was a depressed self-harmer at the time and later received a diagnosis of Asperger's syndrome. So, I don't know if you can see, that's the before. That's the after. Often, people with mental health issues would have very nasty person, animal or fictional character, such as a fairy or elf in their mind office. This character would not work properly in the mind office and would mess things up. So the person would either have to work with the character up there and face a barrage of abuse, have a fight with them and maybe lock them in a cupboard, or leave the mind office and create a small office nearby. The way forward in these instances would be to treat the character in the mind office in a kind and humble manner, taking notice of his issues and thinking about how to help them. The person who drew the diagram had a gremlin in their mind office who was tearing up the events from the day-to-day events as they arrived to be processed in the mind office. In real life, the person had a dog and loved him. We worked on the person stroking and being kind to the dog, and as they did this, being aware that the gremlin was nothing to be frightened of and was only trying to help in the mind office, but had problems with the filing system. The person started to be extra organised in their real house so they could help the mind office function well. We also worked on other matters that were happening in the day-to-day. After a few months, my client drew the mind office again, and the gremlin had turned into a female human being, and the only element of the gremlin that was left were the fingernails, which were, interestingly, in rainbow colours. The person and the rainbow nail character could communicate a lot better now, and she found that she had a much more peaceful existence within herself. The significant finding I linked to this was as follows. If a person started to treat their mind office and person within it in a kind and humble manner, everything improved. This was due to several reasons. Number one, to behave in a kind and humble manner generally increases your power needs, so will automatically bring you into the real world instead of you being stuck in your mind office perception, which allows you to relax and engage with your day-to-day more effectively. 2, it saves you massive amounts of internal energy as you no longer have to argue, control or debate with yourself in a negative way. 3, over time, the mind person would in turn realise that you are engaging with them, so the intensity of emotion and triggers would reduce. Number 4, sometimes more people join the mind office to help run it, which means your mind is more effective at processing information. The mystery of the mind had started to reveal itself. It seemed that many people who were successful were living in a state of being where they were metaphorically living in their mind and were unaware of what was actually going on around them. They were often oblivious to what they were feeling in the moment and what who they are was. This could quite easily lead to a state of anxiety and stress. However, contrarily, a successful person was much more likely to be able to keep functioning for a very long time, even if they were in this mind-focused state, compared to a person who was not living in their mind, was in a more difficult position, but was also more aware of reality. Fascinating. But there was one more puzzle left, and this perhaps was the most important question of them all. Why? So I hope you enjoyed that. Please do jump onto the online academy. There are free courses on there. A really good beginner's course which has all this content, me reading the evidence part of the book out. So please jump on and have a look. The website is www.energydynamicmodel.com, and hopefully see you there. Thank you very much.